Little Caesars changed the game, bro.
They did.
Little Caesars changed. That's the most shot of shit.
Hey, Chewy, blood. They want you on the podcast, bro. Look, he Mexican, bro. You gotta put him on.
Am I interrupting your depression? I'm sorry.
This week's episode of The Voice Party is brought to you by Big Boy Raps. Get your car wrapped by some of the most experienced and skilled in the Bay. Big Boy Raps, where the big boys play.
Welcome back to the Voice Party podcast. This week I am introing and I am your host, Corey A. Snell.
I don't know, dude. I don't know.
Podcast.
I heard that too.
It's Corey A. Snell. Next to me, I got Black Joaquin, or Joaquin as he like to be known. What's up, Joaquin?
Hey.
Next to him, I got...
Forgot my name.
I did.
Marcos,
yeah.
Mark and tacos mixed together.
Mark and tacos mixed together. Yeah, I'm definitely going to remember that shit. We got the guy who brought us all together, JD Aranya.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And then we got Phil's on the ones and twos coming in with some racist ass shit or some whatever off-wall comedy's going to make throughout this fucking shit. What's up, Phil?
How's it going?
And then next to him.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
He's good to see you too, man. And then on this weird, we got a plus
your
one.
Eyes are open. When you close your eyes, you disappear.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's why I keep my mouth open so you can see my teeth. Okay, all right. Next one, we got this Jesus-looking guy. He's coming all the way.
One
from
of the
Death
two.
Valley. One of the two. Yeah, who's the other one?
Introduce yourself.
Oh, no, okay, my bad. Oh, no, okay, all right, long hair, but
I actually appreciate
Gaspar
that.
Purnell. And then the guy who came here to interview, I've known this guy for a long time. Sweet, very funny guy. Give it up for everybody for Mean Dave. What is up, Mean Dave?
Yo.
Thanks. Thank you guys. I finally made
Legend.
it after numerous cancellations.
Yes.
Accidentally and all that. And I love how you turn on your Mac voice for the podcast. Hey, welcome back. We're at the Voice Party.
It was either that or a very high-pitched voice that I do sometimes that I didn't,
And then there's that Bernie Mac shit he's been doing lately.
What's that? You yelling?
I don't even know. That's more like in the moment shit. No, I don't yell. No.
He can't pull it. It comes through him.
It really comes to me,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is your second time on the podcast, but first time
I was on the phone. Yeah,
we did. That was a wild time, man.
Yeah,
one on the phone.
Pandemic.
Yeah, we were doing the Zoom, not even Zoom.
Okay.
We were just literally
on the phone.
Yeah, I was on the phone.
Old school.
Yeah.
Like talk radio shit.
Like radio. Yeah.
We talked for a while too. That was good.
We did like 2.5 hours.
I was lonely during the pandemic, man.
Same
It was
dude.
lonely times.
Yeah.
Were you doing any kind of shows other than like?
Yeah, the Zoom and outdoor shows. We ran because we did Zoom. I had a Zoom podcast that we did weekly. There was another terrible podcast by comics.
That was dope. That was amazing.
That was with Erie Diamonds, and we did that every week for like practically a year.
Thanks for the invite, by the way.
Sorry. I know. JD, here's the thing, man.
He said good comics only.
That does. I do. JD, here's the thing. You always would do comedy and then you'd stop.
Yep.
And I think I've hit you up before, and you're like, I'm not doing comedy right now. I'm like, okay, well, champ, let me know when you return. And so you never let me know that you were returning. So because I'm one of those guys, you hit me up to do something. You're one of my fucking boys. So happy to have you on anything I do.
One of my favorite pictures in the pandemic was a picture of you performing in front of a burning village.
Yeah, it wasn't a burning village. It was a mountain. That was Sonora.
They made it into a meme.
Jimmy, this is fine. One of those this is fine memes, the classic what happened was that photo was around for over a year, but I never saw the burning hills in the original because I just saw the photo of me in the parking lot.
Yeah.
That was the game room in Sonora. Jimmy Dave Maniz, his show that he runs. He runs the most random shows all over the place, from Winter's Tavern in Pacifica to Waterbury or whatever, Waterford or whatever that shithole bar was that we did a show at. And then he has this game room show in Sonora that moved from.
He does the Vikings too, right?
Yeah, he does the Vikings Clubhouse. Again, the most random shows in the oddest places. And but we did. Okay, so during the heart of the pandemic, when they were starting to do outdoor shows, we had one booked at the game room. And Sonora's on your way out to Yosemite or whatever. It's one of those towns you never stop in even to get gas because there's no gas stations or something.
Hot as fuck.
And it wasn't that hot, but but there was a massive fire burning through all of that area, and we didn't know if the show was going to get shut down or not. And we talked to Jimmy, and he was like, "Yeah, oh no, the show's still happening. We're not shut down completely." And we're like, "Okay, well, we'll get out there." And we go out there, and we performed for 5 people in the parking lot, and there's smoke everywhere. Yeah, and the fire is visible up in the mountains behind the area, and we're like, "Holy shit!" We're surprised that, but it's such a small area. They were not. They knew that it was like they weren't even evacuated, so they were fine. And so I just didn't know the picture included the fire. So when I saw the photo a year later and the fire was in it in the original, I'm like, oh yeah, I got to make this into one of those "this is fine" memes. So
I'm trying to find the picture as we.
Yeah,
please like do. For real, dude. It's like the perfect, especially at the time when, like, you know, every time you looked at the news, some shit was happening. Like the COVID cases are up. Then we were World War III, and that's when I saw that picture.
Yeah,
that's great. Didn't you do that parking lot show where it was?
We ran one. We did one in Newark for the summer of 2020, and that was the baby of Vice Mayor at the time. I think he was city councilman, Mike Bucci. He's the Newark mayor. I don't know if you've ever met him. You never met him?
I don't think so.
He's a good friend of mine. He does stand-up comedy. I will call him a stand-up comic. He first started he did one of these punchline shows called I Think I'd Be Good at That, where they train a non-comic to do stand-up for the first time.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And out of all of the people that have done it, he was the only one that kept doing it afterwards. Okay. And he's my friend. I was the one who submitted him for it because I was one of the training comics on 2 or 3 other shows, and all my comics did well, and my jokes did well with their sets. And so I suggested him because he talks to people all the time. He's good at public speaking, and he is a funny dude, like, just to know him. And he's from my hometown. So I suggested him, and then when we started training him, what was funny is he was telling stories of what he was thinking he wanted to put into his act, and all of the comics were like horrified because they were all stories that ended in violence. Oh shit! And this guy's representing my town, and he's a city government official. But he's just like, he's a bro. He's just a bro. He's a regular white dude bro, was a skater at one point and whatever. But I met him through running my shows. I didn't even know him growing up, and he was only a grade or 2 younger than me.
Let's look at the reputation for Newark. It's you and Jesus Cruz.
Yeah, and this show knows Jesus Cruz. Yeah.
Don't fuck that up.
Yeah.
That's good.
Newark's a good, Christopher Titus lived there for a minute. We're home to Len Wiseman, who is a film director of the Underworld series, and he was married to Kate Beckinsale. So a dude from Newark was banging Kate Beckinsale. That's the pride of the town right there.
But so was Pete Davidson. So fuck out of here.
No, after he got that pussy way first. Seconds, and went into her prime too. Yeah, that was we're talking about that's MILF.
That's true.
MILF cougar.
I still smash Kate Beckinsale.
Yeah.
She's hot as shit.
She supposedly grabbed Kabir Singh's junk.
I did hear about that. Yeah, I did. Yeah.
It's one of the things in the height of Me Too. If you ever, I'm telling tales out of school, but Kabir ain't gonna listen to this. He was talking about how after a show she was drunk and grabbed his junk and how the double standard of whatever, all that shit. So
I wish I would have got a picture. Well, never mind. Like, if I did it.
Yeah,
he was cool with it.
Who would complain about that? Really?
Exactly.
Some people, some random twat would.
I wouldn't complain.
You wouldn't complain?
No.
I would ask her to do it again and take a picture, like just to
see. That's when you get in trouble.
That's
when you get in trouble.
I'm gonna get in trouble.
Yeah,
you already did it.
Arrest him.
You take the
bait.
Yeah, you take the win.
Take the bait.
That's it.
All right.
Yeah.
Take the W.
You don't want evidence.
All right, cool.
I just did a show where this one woman, she was sitting out. It was a show at the Castro Valley Marketplace. It was that Plethos comedy thing run by Priya Deen. Mm-hmm. She's a newer comic, and there was this lady that was sitting in the hallway outside the show the entire time and I was like, why is she getting a free show? Is she watching the show and not paying to be here? Like, fuck that. So I was closing it out, and so I was like, excuse me, ma'am, why are you sitting in the hallway like looking like you're just like taking record of all this to report to the, authorities. And it turned out she was the birthday girl of everybody that was there, like this party. And she, for whatever reason, was sitting in the hallway and no one addressed it. And so then I pointed, I was pointing it out. So then she came into the room and she turns out to be like an older, attractive Eastern European woman who then was like intrigued because I'm the one inviting her. She said I was handsome, which I'm like, all right, now I know you're blind. And she ends up like, I asked about this present that was in the front row, like okay, unwrap the present. And then she was like inferring, she was flirting with me, and then she basically was inferring to then unzip her dress as if she was the present to be unwrapped. And I was like, and and you got witnesses, whatever, and they're filming me.
Witnesses?
Yeah. So I'm like, I was sitting like, all right, I'll play along. And so I unzipped her dress, and I'm like, all right, that's as far as it goes. All right, keep your clothes on, because all this could be used for evidence. And she did, and they were all laughing, and her husband was there too. I didn't find out her husband was there, so it was all.
Jesus.
Yeah, it was a real weird. They were loving it. They didn't care. It was just a wild.
They're gonna
moment.
sacrifice you, dog.
It's on the Plethos Comedy Instagram. You can see.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I've never been more terrified in my life than just this woman who's like, unzip my dress. I'm like, all right, okay. Like, I don't want to. I'm like, you look good in the dress. She's older, man. I don't want to see it get worse.
As soon as it comes off, grab him. Like, oh.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you never know it's a setup.
What's the? Okay,
Yeah.
I think you're the perfect person to ask this. What's the craziest shit that's happened at a comedy show for you?
For me, what was the craziest shit? You know what's weird is every time I forget about all of it. I really do. I don't.
Crazier than the fucking fire.
There's been craziest thing that happened. Like one thing that sticks out in my memory because I was pissed was I don't know if anybody was around when Chris Shapakazi was.
Yep.
You know Chris.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Chris Shapakazi was a very popular open micer.
That's very true.
He would get booked on shows only from his friends,
Mm-hmm.
and every time either he would get the show shut down or whatever. He was an instigator. He could be very funny too, but he was also He liked to push buttons and piss you off, and more so than even get a laugh, it seemed like. But he's the only dude that I've seen kill at like brainwash and then also like bomb his ass off at the same place. Yeah. I've seen him get a beer thrown at him and have the lady laugh at him.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So on one particular night, there's this Irish dude and his girlfriend in the front, and he started talking shit to them. I forget exactly what he said. It's been so long, but then the Irish dude just got fed up and he threw a chair at him. And the thing that pissed me off is I was like, we're early in the open mic lineup. I'm like, great, man, you had to end the open mic now. Like we're waiting for, I was just more pissed that I didn't get to go up. Yeah, but it wasn't like it was a good room or anything, but it was just it was the old Rocket Room. But as far as like anything crazy, there has been. I just don't remember.
Remember when you had everyone throw their empty beer cans at you at the Burn Ramen?
Yeah, but that was from standard punk rock days. Yeah, I did that because that's like make me feel at home, everybody. I used to play drums and they would throw full beers like during our sets.
That was the first ever Burn Ramen show.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And he wanted.
That wasn't the first ever because you ran other ones.
Comedy though. Oh yeah,
no, you ran other ones with
right.
Johan because I used to see them and I'd be like, who the fuck are these people running comedy shows at Burnt Ramen? How am I not in on that?
That was the second one.
Yeah, that was more like the third. It felt like you might have. It was later though. Yeah, because I saw there were like two that you were because I remember Chris Riggins and Butch Escobar were on.
That's true.
Ones before me.
That was the first one. Okay.
Yeah, and they were like, we're in this cool punk place, and I'm like, fuck you guys, fucking posers.
Exactly. That's why I have to have Mean Dave on.
No, and it was great. I hosted it and headlined it.
You did a lot of shows there when you.
I played in bands. I was in a number of bands throughout the years. The ones that played there were Woozor, which is one of my favorite bands I was in. You can find our music, our whole discography available for free.
Is that with Eric Newton?
No, that was it was Eric was kind of related to the guys in that band because he jammed in a band with one of those guys beforehand called God Awful, and it was fun. I loved them too. They only played like one show.
You remember, right?
Eric Newton. Yeah, he's an old friend of mine. I've seen him since he was a teenager.
Wow.
And but then we started this band Woozor with these two redheaded dudes that they just had this idea for a band and they were like 5 years younger than me, and I thought I didn't have a band at the time, and so they were like, "Come jam with us, Dave." And I'm like, "All right, we'll see." Like, I'm feeling like a real creep. Huh?
Thrash?
There's thrash, there's death metal, there's sludge. It's like a hybrid of all of our interests. So it's got an original metal kind of quality. And but the funny thing was they were 5 years younger than me, so I'm in my early 20s hanging out with like 18-year-olds and buying them alcohol when we're jamming and shit, real scumbag shit. and we played this sound that like would be more popular in the 21 and over place, but we could only play all ages places. So, and Burt Ramen was one of them, where underage people would drink and do drugs. And at the time, not now. And so, but they were a cool band, and you could find our discography on Mortville Noise on their Bandcamp. My buddy Andy out in Iowa was gracious enough to put our whole discography, which is all our records and some unreleased tracks, and they're all good. I listen to them. Like, I only played in bands that I like to listen to. And
what years was this? Because
that band was from '98 to 2001, I think, or 2000.
This was when like the Burt Ramen was.
Burt Ramen was like in its heyday, like from the mid '90s into the early 2000s, because then they got shut down not long after the Great White Fire. Because then after the Great White Fire, then cities were clamping down on any venue that was not legit.
And those venues are so fucking important, man.
They were. I mean, we had a great time at all of the ones that I had performed. I played, like, Hazmat was in Oakland. I performed there. There was this one called Victory Warehouse that we played at. There were all kinds of lofts.
Would you consider the Store Club like that?
No, Store Club was a venue.
It was a record.
That was a bar with a stage.
It looked like,
it looked like a shithole, but but it had it's also John Waters, the director. He's one of the co-owners now of it. Yeah, I think he's kind of like a quiet investor, but he's part of it, and they're gonna revamp that.
I just found out the day of my birthday that the show you came there, that Municipal Waste did a show at the Burt Ramen. Did you?
I played with them.
Oh,
I played that show, or one of the shows, with them. They played there a few times. I played with Municipal Waste. They were already like on their way to where they're at now, and they're still the same dudes. Like, I don't know them. Like, they wouldn't remember me, but they would remember my band Funeral Shock, because they were friends with Jeff, the bass player. And Funeral Shock was the band that I was in that had the most notoriety. We played at Gilman and Burnt Ramen and all the main punk places. But Municipal Waste, their first album was on 6 Weeks Records, which is my buddy Jeff, his label, and so that was Waste 'Em All. And then they got on their other labels and shit, and so we played Burnt Ramen with them. That was a crazy show. We played this this festival in El Monte in like 2005 with them, and yeah, they're cool dudes.
You know what used to crack me up about those Burnt Ramen days? The flyer would say 8 p.m. The band didn't go on till like
1 a.m. I just experienced that. Well, those are the old days, but like people would want to catch Bart now. I just went to a show at a place called the Church of the Buzzard, which is like kind of like one of these places in Oakland, and I saw a great band that I'm into now, Aquaria. They're out of Nevada City, and they got some members that are from the Bay Area, and I saw them and this other band, Amarok, which are really good. That are I forget where they're from, but they played a really cool show there, and they said 6 p.m. Show didn't start till 8. So it's
typical.
Don't believe the time.
Yeah. Do you ever think about doing music again?
I don't, not at the level I did. I got invited to actually to see about playing drums in a band I really like called Swamp Witch.
I thought you did guitar and vocals.
I played guitar and vocals in bands. That's what I played in my last band with Eric Newton, Bad Touch. But
I have an idea.
What's this?
Sean Boyle's drums, Eric on bass, and guitar and vocals you.
Eric who?
Newton.
He doesn't play bass.
Oh, he doesn't?
No. Eric would be the drummer.
Luigi plays bass.
Here's the thing. Comedians are the worst people to play in bands with, man. There's a reason why I don't have a band with any comedians. Are you kidding me? It's bad enough doing a show with them, man. Like, fucking, I want to get down with them. No, and they're cool. Like, Sean, I actually thought about like maybe hitting up to jam and something, but he's busy with his own shit. Plus, I don't
4 bands and shit.
and I don't have any. My equipment's all in a storage spot I can't get into because my buddy's, got it buried in some hoarding shit, and he likes to have sex parties there. So my amps have all been fucked on by now.
Goddamn.
Yeah, exactly. Who knows if they sound?
It's a little more rock and roll.
Yeah. There's
That's
definitely
called seasoning, baby.
there's fluids. There's fluids on them.
Yeah.
I'm sure Marco's got fluids all over his shit, right?
We don't have to talk about that.
Little aside,
That's what it is.
So, but no, I played. I actually had jam in a band. It's not a regular band. It's a project. My friend Frank Ripple, he played bass in all these bands that are somewhat known in the underground, from Plutocracy, Agents of Satan, Calmex and the Riff Merchants, and
Christian band.
He's a very like, he is an amazing bass player, and he lives in Gilroy. He's got a family now. He works all the time, so he does this project called Bass Gaper, and the name alone is like an evolution. He got into the word gape for some reason. If you don't know what gape is, it's if you look it up, most likely you'll see porn related to it. Gape basically is like a wide opening. If you look up, there's like gape porn, or it's where it's anal, where they're trying to make the anus, like stretched or whatever. That's a gaping hole. All right, it's like a gaping.
He's about to pull it up. Right now.
Exactly. So that's what gape is. So he just got into the word gape, and then he had this Twitter account before it got like kind of banned or whatever. He just liked to make problematic tweets, and one of the tweets he made was Gape Tard, and he made a band called Gape Tard, and that was with another person, and so that person couldn't keep that going, and so he ended up making Bass Gaper, which is his band. He goes by Gape Freely, which is like Ace Frehley from Kiss. He goes by Gape Freely, and it just cracks me up. Just the word gape. It's so stupid. Yeah.
I'm sure I could find it.
Yeah.
There's no porn didn't come up immediately.
Not really? Okay, well then maybe I'm
safe thing.
The definition be or become a wide open.
A wide open, yeah.
You got parental controls on your phone?
No.
Yeah.
There's porn on my phone 24/7.
Yeah. So gape is definitely it's definitely an adjective used in a lot of porn.
I have seen, not to go off topic, I've seen your back hit bit. Oh shit! There it is.
Is it a wide open anus? Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's a gaping anus right there. It's a drawing though. It's not a real one.
That is definitely
Basically, gape is related to blossoms, and if you don't know what blossoms are, God bless you. All right, don't look that shit up. It's terrifying.
Look up blossoms now.
Yeah, there you go.
And we can't just stop at it.
I only learned that from a John Waters movie, Dirty Shame. Learned what blossoms were. Okay. Yeah.
Oh no, see that's just flowers and shit.
No, it's not just flowers. A blossom is in porn.
Also a pop band.
Look up Blossom porn. Look up Blossom porn, and you will be horrified, sir.
Oh, I'm not sure I want to see.
Yeah, exactly.
It's gonna make me
yeah. Oh, it could. Yeah, if it doesn't,
While he looks for that, your Bat Kid.
The Bat Kid bit. Yeah,
I've seen that shit. Like, would you say it went viral? Because I've seen a lot of.
Not really. I mean, it hasn't gone. None of my things have gone too viral. I mean, it's the most seen thing on YouTube. On my channel.
I got it on recommendations.
Yeah,
I see it has a lot of views.
Yeah.
And it just randomly one day showed up on my and then when I first hit up Bridge to do a show, the guy had already seen, the guy who was in charge at the time had already seen that video.
Oh really? No shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I just didn't know the guy. I don't know how the hell so that's what I'm saying.
There's people who've seen. Yeah, I get. It's funny because it's like
because you're a well-known guy. Man.
I'm known in the Bay Area.
And
sometimes people might know of me from something here and there. I'm not too well known. I haven't done anything that's that viral yet, and I don't. It's you want things to be viral, but I also am not seeking it out the way a lot of people are.
You did mention that in our last podcast that you're okay with just being a good local comic.
I love being a good local comic. I'm not. I mean, not just okay with it. It's it pays my bills. Anything pays my bill. Yeah, of course I'd want things. With more money comes more problems, as the great Biggie said. I'm in a nice state where it's I make enough to live. I'm under the poverty line, so I collect EBT. I'm good, and I got free insurance. I'm I don't mind coasting, man. I didn't get into comedy for all this fucking being on the computer all the time and worried about shit going viral. I was talking to there's a really good comic, Kyrie Shabazz. He's a very very good comic. He's been on TV. He's got shit that he wants to go viral with bits and stuff.
Young guy too, right?
Fairly young. He's in his 30s, I'm sure. It's mainly he's a big guy. He's a big black dude, so he's thinking based on on his health, he ain't gonna live long. No, he jokes, but yeah, exactly. He's a big dude. But super funny. I lost to him at the Rooster Teeth Feathers competition in 2014. I took second, he took first, and he like literally almost like practically, he didn't steal it from me, but he was the 12th spot in the 12 comics. And I wouldn't say that even though I knew I had the best set, I just know how competitions are, and I'm like, I picked my top 3 if it weren't me, if I'm not in there. And I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised because of likability and all the jerk-off factors.
You're scary.
Well, it's not just that. It's more that I do like my back kid joke. I do jokes that people might laugh at, but then judge me for and be like, I don't like that. That's not right. Kid's got leukemia, something like that.
Have you heard that?
No, I have not.
It's basically just I was stuck in traffic the day they were filming The Bat Kid Begins, and I was like Make-A-Wish Foundation threw a parade for this 5-year-old, and I didn't know about. I was like, it's a great event, 100,000 people, but I was there. I didn't know shit. I was just stuck in traffic, and when you're stuck in traffic, you yell things you don't really mean, like somebody better be dying up there, and it turned out somebody was of leukemia. So, and I go on to make a whole case that actually I do an extended part of that bit that a guy got arrested for something similar in Canada and prosecuted over a joke. Because what I say is like, okay, this kid, and this all came from like having an argument online with somebody. I was having an argument online with this dude who, in case you didn't know, podcast, JD's going to the bathroom right now. He's so excited.
For the non-YouTuber
He's so excited about this story.
For our listeners.
Hey, talk shit about JD. Well, he's pissed. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Where do we begin?
I got into this argument with this other comic, Nick Hoffman, online because I was not into the Bat Kid phenomenon. I don't like anything when. That's the thing why I don't like viral shit. I don't like shit when it's popular. Yeah. Even if I want to like it, I have a compulsive non-conformist streak in me where it's like, oh, everybody wants to go do that. Well, fuck that, And that's.
You were a born hipster.
No, it's not hipster. No, it's not hipster. Hipsters.
It's trendy.
Yeah. And not only that, hipsters want to like make you feel less for like, oh yeah, I was into that, before it was cool kind of shit. Yeah. Those are the people that actually like I don't. It's funny because it's like I know people who became hipsters or whatever. Those are like my skater friends back in the day because they were people. It's like oh yeah, I want to skate. Well, no, you don't want to skate like that, dude. Like that kind of shit.
Yeah.
Like
well, hipsters also changed. They've changed considerably.
And yes. I'm a hater. When they started calling like, oh, you're a hater, I'm like. Yeah, I am. I do hate things. Even when I like them, I hate them. I don't make any bones about it. But also that's the thing is I got over it. I got into recovery and all that shit. But so I got into this argument with this dude over it because I was like something about this Bat Kid shit. It was coming out of nowhere. No one knew the kid's name. And I know Make-A-Wish Foundation, they do all kinds of good work. Yeah. But they never publicize it to that degree. And I'm like, there's something weird.
I think did Make-A-Wish like purposely publicize it or did
it was a marketing?
Yeah,
it was marketing. It was all marketing. It was all marketing, and there's a thing behind it. When there's money behind something, because they had to license the Batman franchise, to use it, because it was on TV. They're doing it all in public.
There's a documentary about it, right?
There's a documentary that they're filming, and they know they need the return investment on the documentary.
That's true.
So guess what? And it was so funny, because I got into this argument with Nick Hoffman over it, and then he was the one. This is why it's, Facebook debates aren't always a bad thing when they can, because even a guy who disagreed with me found me the article that pointed out that the kid was in remission the entire time. Wow. And that's when I'm like, oh, so he wasn't even really dying. Like he's in remission now. I've learned a lot about.
He sounds angry about that.
No, I learned a lot about Make-A-Wish. I've learned a lot about Make-A-Wish Foundation through this whole entire joke, because it's just a joke. I'm not sitting here like saying terrible things about this kid or whatever. I get more upset at the idea of manipulating the public. Right. Yeah. That's what bothers me, because Make-A-Wish is a great organization. What they're doing was like, oh, you're trying to like put this thing probably for fundraising purposes to get more sponsors, I don't know, but it's definitely for publicity.
It would have been better if they said, this is a kid that's in recovery. He made his wish already, but we still want to grant him because he went through a hard time. I think that would have been just as hard.
But people don't hear that. It's really just they need the hard sell. They had a great story. The kid's from like the Reading area. I learned all about this kid in trashing him. So
the traffic that it caused.
Yeah, no. See somebody. So what happened? So that's the thing is when I said the kid was in remission the entire time. Call me old fashioned. I feel a deal's a deal. If the Make-A-Wish Foundation's going to drop $100,000, stop San Francisco traffic for a day to grant the kid his dying wish, the kid should hold up his end of the bargain. That's I said the deal becomes null and void if you're going to live. It defeats the whole purpose of the Make-A-Wish. Now, yeah, exactly. That's the fucked up part of it. Here's the thing: I wouldn't tell that joke if the kid died. I'm not an asshole.
He's not a monster.
I've told this joke for a long time. This joke's almost 10 years now.
Yeah.
And but the funny thing,
do you know if he's alive?
Yeah, he's alive and cancer-free. I've followed his whole life because I needed it to deal with anybody that would come up to me after a show. I even had a drunk bitch at fucking at Tommy T's who was with a table full of dudes that I'm sure we're all gonna like take turns ramming her later, and come up to me to try and guilt trip me over her son who was a Make-A-Wish kid, and I'm like, is he alive? And she said, yeah, and I'm like, then you should be fucking happy and laughing at this joke because that's what it's about. I wouldn't tell this joke if the kid died. You're an idiot.
Yeah.
And then I joke when I tell that part to the audience. I'm like, my joke kept him alive. You can thank me. and but it's the point that then my point then later. This is something Dan Allender West kind of pointed out too at the time because he had a back kid joke that pointed this out a little bit. Was that he's a 5-year-old at the time. He's a teenager now. And now he realizes, wow, I peaked at 5. There's no more cocaine and hookers for the back kids. So, and it's like, and people are manipulative and be like, I feel my leukemia coming back, Dad. Let's get Make-A-Wish Foundation on the phone. Turn Oakland into Middle Earth. Be the Hobbit this year. And so that's the joke of it all. But it's really the thing is there's a guy who did a joke, similar premise, but he would say, I wish the kid would fucking die already. That was his punchline.
Jeez.
Yeah, a little heartless in it. Like mine has heart to it. All right, I'm not trying to wish death on a kid. But he told that in Canada about some kid who was in the news over some condition, and he got arrested. Time served, but he ended up getting fined. I think like $30,000
for saying that.
For that joke, yeah. And it was like it was in the news about it and stuff. And then people pointed in my direction, like, "Hey, this is like your back kid joke." I'm like, "Yeah, but we got free speech here, so, gonna be safe."
Jeez, that was horrible of him to say.
Yeah.
Damn.
So,
Okay.
$30,000.
Yeah.
I think I watched the back kid documentary because it's on YouTube.
Well, it might be, but it's also on like HBO Max.
Yeah.
It's been on a bunch on stuff.
And that's where I was watching that, and that's what I'm trying to think if your thing was recommended.
Oh, because of that? No shit. That'd be too funny if that was.
That's what I'm saying. Like that's why I was like,
yeah.
I remember watching that thinking he's about to go viral.
No,
because it's a good bit. Like
I love it. It's one of my favorite bits. It's also people have imitated it a couple times, and I've had to talk to them.
Anyone local?
Yeah, no, they were all local. Like it's 2 people I got because I would get messages from comics being like, "Hey, this person's doing your Bat Kid bit."
Yeah. How do you handle that?
I just messaged them and said, "Hey, someone gave me a heads up. You might be doing a bit that's like my Bat Kid bit."
And your dreams.
And I said, and this is
like, just don't look outside.
I'm like, all I have to tell them is like it's on YouTube. So if your joke is from before that, more power to you. And it's people that I knew. Or one was a guy who was a random dude who used to live in town from somewhere else, and he claimed that he had the joke, but I didn't care, and I never saw him again. And then the other guy was a local comic that as soon as I told him, he was like, "Oh my God!" Like he knew that he thought it up himself, and then he realized he heard it from me.
I hear that happens a lot in comedy too. Yeah,
it can.
Yeah, sort of like it'll come in by osmosis, and they integrate it into their set, and then like, oh wait a minute, that wasn't mine.
Yeah.
How many times would you say that's happened to you?
I don't know if it has. I have a good memory.
Just because that was such a popular bit, maybe that.
Not even that. No, it's not because of that. I have a good memory. So like if I really like something, or if something like I'm also very judgmental. So there's a lot of comedy, even when it's good, I'm like, oh, that's hacky or low hanging fruit or whatever. And I'm not that judgmental about like saying it's bad, because I think all comedy's hacky. Comedy is a hack. It's why the hackiest comics do very well. And
True.
Corday knows.
Yeah.
Kidding. Not because of Corday. No, Corday's fucking great.
Yeah.
But no, he's seen it. He knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
it's like, and I don't hate on it too, because it's like some of them are my friends. Corny comics are some of my good friends, and I don't shit on them. I make fun of them to their face.
That's what I appreciate about you.
Yeah.
I love about him too.
You don't hold back on people on social media, and
I do a little more than I used to.
true.
Yeah, because I used to go guns blazing.
Yeah, I remember.
I used to, when I was still drinking and doing drugs. I was like, everybody's fair.
The Wild West days of Dave.
Because I had nothing to lose.
Exactly.
That kind of thing.
I've heard. Can I share some stories that I've heard? I've heard of you trying to wrestle guys outside of bars back in the days.
I didn't try to wrestle nobody. Somebody tried to beat the shit out of me.
Okay.
That was, and not like on numerous occasions. There was the 2 incidents that happened.
I know of one.
It was outside La Rocca's.
No, outside of the Punchline.
Outside of the Punchline. Maybe people have been moving around. Nobody's tried to fight me outside the Punchline that I know of.
That you remember?
I don't want to say his name, but
no, say his name. Come on.
Well, that you were drunk and you wanted to wrestle Jesse.
Jesse who? Fernandez?
Yeah.
That's somebody else. That was not me.
That was not you?
No. I knew that was probably like Jesse Het. They both wrestle.
Okay.
Yeah, not outside Punchline.
No?
I don't know who said it was me.
That was a long time ago. I heard that.
Nah, Jesse Fernandez is a good friend of mine.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I would, and I also know that I knew that him
He's
and
a wrestler
Jesse
too,
Het.
right?
Yeah, they both wrestled in school. I wouldn't. Yeah, not only that, I love his comedy. So he
Yeah,
was
I love
never
that
something.
guy, yeah.
The only people that I had physically see, there's rumors. And
That's why I want to clear
You
shit
never
up
know.
with you.
Yeah, that's funny that would be the case. I'm like, wow, people give me that kind of credit. No, never. Not only that, I respect the Punchline too much.
You beat the shit out of those guys.
Nah, I respect the Punchline too much. The only 2 physical altercations I got into, and not saying that I've had other incidents, but they didn't result in physical violence. But one was outside La Rocca's, which is right next door to Cobb's. It's the bar.
Yeah.
They used to have an open mic there, and I was drinking that day. I think it was 2013, and I drank at Amnesia first, and had a weird manic set there, and then I was in a very resentful state. I think I just visited my cousin's grave for the first time in a year, and I had this weird kind of fuck everything attitude that week, and so I went there and I met a homeless dude outside whose name was Focus. He was, and I remember him. He was a very crisp-spoken man. He was a middle-aged black dude, very cool. I was surprised he lived on the streets, considering, because he was just very well-spoken and just a cool dude. And so I talked to him beforehand or whatever. And then as the night wore on, I was drinking more, and I got into all of these different I was literally trying to piss people off. There's a comic at the time, Darius Monday. He used to live around here. You remember Darius?
Yeah.
He's a little dude.
He lives with a homie.
Yeah, okay. And I was trying. Darius was a dude who, he would always get mad at me for no reason. And on this particular day, I'm like, well, you're gonna get mad at me anyway. Might as well piss him off. So we're talking shit to each other, and I was like, Darius. I said this to Darius, and I said this to another comedian that got I said, Darius, if I were you, I would just quit comedy and focus on being a good dad. And I've said that to people before, and I said it to people that I meant it too at the time, because I think comedy is unless you got your priorities straight, putting comedy ahead of being a good family man I don't think is a good idea. Yeah. And so he then it was the funniest part. He slapped me, gave me an open hand slap. And I said, Darius, give me your hand. And I took his hand, I put it on my heart, and I said, my heart's not even beating fast. and people were watching this shit and were laughing, and I was literally I was in a weird, I want to say I was feeling like a wrestler trying to live up to a persona that people kind of amplified. Because when I came from music, I knew a lot of maniacs in music that I was just a smart-ass, suburb kid too. When I came into comedy, I was like, oh, people are trying to make me out to be like one of the fucking nightmares that I know from music. Yeah. Well, might as well play with it a bit. So I was fucking around with it. So that was that incident, and then also Focus later. I'm pissing people off to the point where the bar, I knew the bartender, and he was a cool dude. He wasn't there that night, that's right. Because I used to do coke with him, but this other guy was there, and he was getting worried about me, and so they wouldn't let me in the bar. They were saying I was banned from the bar, and the guy who was stopping me was Focus, and I'm like, Focus, you don't work here. like, why do you care if I go in the bar? Like, it doesn't fucking matter. I'm like, why are you being some Uncle Tom for the goddamn bar? That's where Focus. I called him an Uncle Tom, and Focus got supremely pissed off.
Jeez.
And he's an older man. He's very and could easily beat the shit out of me. I was like me minus 30 pounds because I'm wiry and just whatever, and a wise ass, big head still. And he so then he's like ready to whoop my ass, and that's when all like literally open micers who I was not friends with, like Chris Riggins was there, like all these people, they all like kind of converged to keep Focus away from me, and I'm still talking shit. I was like, what, you want to come? Yeah, just let him fucking beat the shit out of me. I don't give a fuck. Like, I'm talking mad shit, and the funniest part is that Focus is now like trying to just shoving open micers left and right, and I'm just like, this is awesome. Like watching Focus just knocking these open micers to the side, trying to get to me, and they managed to separate us and get us walking in different directions. Here's the funny part that no one else knew from that night. I knew that Focus was going in the direction of my car, and I was going in the opposite direction, and I was going to have to go back in that direction to get to my car, so I might run into Focus. And I'm drunk still. So I walked around, I got to my car, I got in the car, and as I'm about to drive off, I see Focus, and this is like just a block away. And this is literally the thought that crossed my head. And I'm not proud of this. I was sitting there like, I could hit this motherfucker with my car, and no one will care. No one's they'll deal with it. And I'm like, I can get away with it. I'm like, I'm not gonna do that. And so I pulled over and I rolled down the window and said, hey, Focus, you got anywhere you need to go? I'll give you a ride. I'm sorry about what happened back there. Oh. And Focus literally, he had this look on his face like, motherfucker. And he got in the car, and I gave him a ride to the Tenderloin, and we had a great talk. I still remember the conversation because this is the year that I gave up drugs and alcohol. These were some of the incidents that led up to that point, and his name was Focus. Mm-hmm. That's why I still remember it, because then now it's like once I got in recovery, those are one of the incidents that led me to it, to keep my focus. And I'm grateful for that. And at the end, when I dropped him off after our conversation, he said, Dave, I love you, man. I hope you take care of yourself, whatever. I said, I love you too, Focus. And those were the last words. And comedy isn't interested in that. They're interested that, now I got some story about wrestling a comic that I'm friends with outside the punchline. So that was that incident. And then the other incident was outside the Quarter Note in Sunnyvale, where I was heckling a comic who was being really rude to the room. And I was heckling him on purpose. After I was drunk, I was pissed off that I wasn't bumped up in the lineup because I was part of the comics that did well in that room to keep the mic going. And the guy he was just a jackass who ran it. And so I was heckling this comic. He's not around anymore, named Mike Montgomery. He was a very funny comic. But I was yelling at him, "You're surfing against the wind," like the principle of what he was doing was wrong. I'm like, dude, you're trying to what are you doing? You're a funny dude. You shouldn't be, trying to piss off this room. They're actually pretty cool people. And so I'm heckling him. He then gets off stage, gets mad at me, and then the other person who gets mad at me is L Boogie, Lawrence Braggs, who everybody knows. Yeah. They were talking earlier because they're both Marines. And so then after I'm antagonizing Mike as he's like, "What's your fucking problem?" I'm like, "What? What's your problem? You're the one being shitty to the room or whatever." L Boogie gets in there. And he starts getting I'm like, what are you fucking defending your girlfriend for? What, just because you're in the military and all? Like, whatever. I'm talking mad shit. And I said the same line to him that I said to Darius Monday. I was like, if I were you, I just quit comedy, focus on being a good dad. He then shoved me. He shoved me pretty hard, and I just spun around, and I landed right on my wrist, and I broke my. Is it this wrist? No, it's this wrist. I landed on this wrist, and I broke it, and. And I knew something was bad, and I just got up, and then I knew everybody knew I was drunk, so I was like, I'm gonna make everybody think that I drove off, but I just got in my car and drove around the corner and parked and passed out in my car, so that was that happened. So, and L Boogie and I, I apologized to him later, and we're cool. I mean, as cool as we can be these days.
I'm. Like, okay, well, obviously you see we're all just quiet. Then what happened?
Yeah, no.
Great storytelling.
They're very pathetic stories.
This is great, storytelling. What I wanted to ask is, did you ever see Focus again?
No, I have. I don't. Even if I saw him, I wouldn't recognize him because I was pretty hammered. I don't know what he would look like.
That was an angel.
No, that's exactly how I see him.
Yeah.
Because I again there was.
That's where you started
that
recovery.
week. That it wasn't just that week. Later that week, I had another incident where I ran into my cousin's like widowed fiance at a bar in Alameda. I mean, it's a small area and all that, but I didn't expect to see her there. And yeah, there was a lot of shit that led up to it because my cousin was somebody who he was one of my best friends. Not really best friend. I mean, he's one of my favorite family members that I had growing up. Closest thing is like a brother. He got into drugs a lot, selling drugs and all that stuff. He was well known in the Oakland community. He had a rap label that really wasn't much of a label. It was just trying to sell weed through and shit. And he died at 33 from an undiagnosed heart condition in his sleep. And it sucked because we had a falling out, and we were just gonna see each other again at his wedding, and he died the February before May that he was gonna get married. And funny thing about his funeral though is I told my mom because she came with me to the funeral. It was in Oakland. I said, "Mom, this is gonna be the first funeral you're ever gonna be at where you're going to smell weed in the church, so just be prepared." And shit you not, I mean, it was a jam-packed church. There was more people there than the church could fill, and the service didn't even start, and I already smelled a great blunt wrap. Somebody was smoking. I'm like, who the fuck is toking up in this church? So, yeah.
How do you go about, you said you're in recovery.
Yeah.
How do you go about performing and being in that environment of like comics that are always fucked up?
By getting high. No, I was kidding. No, it's if you work 12, like I didn't ever think I'd be doing it myself.
Because I'm currently in recovery.
You're in recovery? How long?
Yeah, I just hit my 100-day mark.
Fuck yeah! Give this guy a round of applause, everybody.
Thank you.
That's beautiful, man. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, so I have a sponsor too and everything. I'm
Hell yeah.
my steps.
We did a whole episode.
I'm
gonna get your number after.
Let's.
And he's in music.
Then you're in music.
I'm in the band.
Here's the thing, and this is what I suggested to anybody. And like I did everything they suggested: 90 meetings in 90 days. Got a sponsor. Work my steps. Be of service. Those are 4 things that I do consistently.
Repeat that again.
It's for everybody who wants recovery to work for you. You go to meetings regularly. In the early stage, you go to 90 meetings in 90 days. After you get your legs and you start feeling good, you just need to go meetings. A meeting or 2 or however many you need. Some need it every day, but go to meetings that so that you have that every week. You need it. I go to at least a meeting a week, and sometimes more, sometimes rarely less. But so you go to meetings every week or regularly. You have a sponsor. You work your steps with that sponsor and apply those principles in your day-to-day life. It's not just working steps, because the step work is there with your sponsor, but the things that you learn, that you hear, that you apply them day to day. Because like I learned that at a job in San Francisco, because every time I was working at this new job, I would feel my impulses to want to do my self-will, want to like, oh, fuck this, they're taking breaks, they're doing whatever, and then I would be like, stop. Normally, you always want to like just say fuck it and go on, like whatever. Hey, how about you just do like go clean this, go do something.
Right. Worry about yourself.
Yeah, worry not just about myself, but like do something that I'm working here, right? I'm supposed to be of service. That's where, and then the 4th part of that is always have a service commitment. So that means whether you're secretary of a meeting, even a coffee greeter, or a coffee maker, or a greeter. Right now, like my service commitment is I find speakers for one of my online Zoom meetings that's my home group. But if you do those 4 things regularly, the thing is life's gonna show up. You're gonna have problems, but what I like what my
life's gonna show up. That's a good one.
That's what that's it. Life shows up, man. And that the key to recovery is you do those 4 things is like training. The best analogy I've had was after I just watched the last season of Cobra Kai. I'm like, recovery is just like what Ralph Macchio's doing, because he's like sitting there sanding the floor, painting the house, painting the fence. He's like, why the fuck you got me doing all these chores? And then he's like, here, stand here. And he's like, show me sand a floor. And he's like doing it, and then he goes, he starts showing it in action. That's what recovery is. You're training yourself to get all these principles and get all these tools so that when bad shit happens or even good shit happens, like, oh, okay, cool. I need to go do this now. I need to, where I would normally go right and go and have a drink or go and get high, I need to go left. I need to, you start learning where to put yourself in better headspace. Like, for instance, so I do comedy. it's a job. I've always looked at it. The whole reason I got into comedy was to make it a job. I don't do it because I think there's nobility in it. I don't do it because it's some passion. Like, my passion was music, and I've gotten that out of my system. I love doing stand-up because it's the only job I've ever had where I've been rewarded for being the jackass that I am. And every other job has always tried to change me. Every job I've had, for even working in video games. I tested video games for 14 years, and I fucking hate all of the people that worked in video games, because it is like,
it's crazy. That's someone's dream job.
They're more like the people in Office Space. Even Eric Newton is one of those motherfuckers. That's why Eric Newton has. I love the man. Yeah. Have no respect for him though on a professional level. Especially the fact that he became a comedian, because he was my drummer in a comedic band.
Yeah.
And the whole reason I went into comedy was to promote the band. And then he quit the band because he didn't like all of the bottom level open mic comedy that we were dealing with at these gigs.
His episode with us was called "Comedians Are Terrible People."
That's his line that he said to me. He says, "But you're funny, Dave." I'm like, "Oh, thanks, Eric. You're quitting the fucking band." And I still had to drop his ass off at home after he told me that shit. That was after I took a piss in Oakland, and like, we stopped after a gig. It was a terrible gig, and we pulled off. And I took a piss, and I came in. And he was like, he got out of the car to tell me this shit. He goes, "Dave, man, hey, I'm quitting the band." I'm like, he goes, "Comedians are horrible people, but you're funny though." And I'm like, fuck, you want to walk home? Like, fuck, I was so mad. And yeah, and then he even, like, we were going to reform a year later and we had a gig booked, and he didn't show up to the gig. Wow. Yeah, I was fucking let down like a motherfucker. So I was really mad at him until I got in recovery. One of the first people I saw in my first week of recovery was his older brother. He has a brother that's like 10 years older, named Sean. Mm-hmm. And and I'm not breaking anonymity saying his name. He's pretty public about his recovery. He was in a meeting on my 7th day that I went to, and I thought he looked familiar. I saw Sean, one of his last years when he was still drinking and getting high. He got drunk at a party that Eric went to in Newark. And I barely knew Eric at the time, but I heard about this dude that was shit-faced who fell on his head. He was drinking a bunch of vodka, fell on his head and hurt himself, and then he bounced. And Eric's mom was at the party looking for them. Oh, so, yeah, and everybody was lying, saying that he wasn't there, that he didn't come by and shit. So we all had to lie for Eric. And, but yeah, so that was that. And then, so when after Eric quit the band and then he started getting into comedy, which was like 2015, I want to say, I saw that he was going to open mics. He was posting about it. And I'm like, you fucking asshole. Like, we were cool by that. We were cool then.
And he's funny.
No, he wasn't funny at first. Oh, okay. He's always been a funny dude. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. He's always been a funny dude. And and I knew he would get it. Yeah. But I had so much fun watching him be terrible at comedy for like he was not good up until the pandemic. And something about when the pandemic hit, and just before that, you want to know why again? He quit drugs and alcohol. He actually evaluated because he was doing a lot of open mics and partying with these people, and he was kind of
that's why I knew he was sober too.
Yeah, and he was starting to go in these circles, and he has his brothers in recovery. He's seen the effects of it. His dad, I think, died young. They have a lot of history of disease in their family. Of like certain just health issues, and he's aware of it, and that's what he's posted about that, and I'm very happy for Eric today because he's always been a cool dude. Like even our differences, we were young dudes. I had a cocaine problem at the time too. He had a shitty girlfriend, and so it wasn't a good match. We made great music though. I still love the music that we made, and he's a great drummer, but he ended up. Once he started getting to comedy, and I would see his sets, and I would just be like, "Yeah, that's right, bomb, motherfucker." Like, and he was always super positive to me, so I say that lovingly.
No, yeah.
But once he got it, like it was funny because I told him, I said, even when he was terrible, I said, if you want to set it like Vinny's Bar and Grill. Sorry, I haven't hit you up yet. But I was telling him, I said, hit me up. I've got shitty rooms, not shitty rooms, but like rooms where comics that are newer can do their sets, and he never did. And then once he got a laugh out of me, or I started seeing that he was getting some bookings on some cool shows. So I'm like, I can book you now if you're like doing that. And I booked him, and he's had good sets. He had a set that was tough at Branham Lounge. outside. We did our show outdoors a couple times, and it was why they still had indoor shows because their patrons there can be fucking assholes.
Big time.
Yeah,
we went, and you remember
what that bar?
San Jose?
Yeah.
Oh, that was absolutely the worst comedy show I've ever been to.
It can be. Yeah.
I love the producers.
Yeah, but no,
the crowd,
the patrons
horrible.
can be terrible, and so we were running.
Sorry to interrupt, but they were all saying like, "Oh yeah, the show was good," blah blah blah, and I was like, "You guys weren't even paying attention."
That's how they are there.
You guys are fucking talking over everybody.
That was weird. People that were talking the whole time to each other. Hey, you guys were calling. Like, where the fuck?
Sometimes they aren't even that friendly. I mean, sometimes they'll be that rude and be like, "Yeah, you guys suck," just shit like that. And
there was one comic that wasn't.
Yeah, no, believe me, there's. Yeah, so we ended up doing the show outside, right? And it was the first one I did outside actually, and Eric was in the lineup and. We had a good crowd there in the outdoor patio, and then Eric's doing his joke about that makes fun of Raiders fans.
Yeah.
Totally makes fun of Raiders fans. And one of the things he does in the setup to it is imitate them yelling, going, Raiders! Yeah. And these four swollen homies, with all their fucking, they all look like they've been stung by bees, all walk up with their neck tattoos and shit in their 49ers gear, and they hear him say that, and they're like, Niners! And start like antagonizing him as if he's a Raiders fan. And I'm like, and so.
Not even paying attention.
No. And they were just being everything that we go outside for. They were doing everything, showing that audience why we were outside. And so then Eric he did not address them at all.
This is why I'm sober.
He just went into it. He just kept going into his bits, and he managed to get through it as awkward as it was. And he didn't even, I could tell he was nervous about it, but he didn't waver from his act. He did his act. And then right afterwards I said, you see why we're outside right now? And everybody laughed at that shit. And I said, this is the reason why we're out here. They were 49ers fans who were too stupid to see that he was making fun of Raiders fans. Yeah. I'm like, they don't even they wouldn't even pay attention to it. Right. So that's why. And then the guy now says we have to be indoors anyway. The manager said he'll talk to anybody that's being rude during our show. So. Yeah,
it's a good spot for
it. Can be.
It's a beautiful, beautiful.
I'm grateful I'm not there tonight. So.
The vibe of the bar is really nice.
Yeah. It can be. Yeah, it's a nice bar. They used to run an open mic there years ago. I did Shrooms performing there once, and it was a terrible experience. But yeah.
What does a sponsor do?
Oh, a sponsor guides you. Is a sponsor for recovery. Anybody meant. In recovery, what your goal is to find somebody who has knowledge of the 12-step process, and you ask them to. They're like like Padawan and what do you call it in the Jedi circle? I have been, and this is something funny. All of my sponsees have relapsed, disappeared, and one even died. And when I told that to somebody, see, I love how you're laughing. I'm glad you guys are laughing because one of my friends, Sean, I'm good friends with the guy you used
unrelated to drugs, right?
My friend Sean Sinha. No, he died from an overdose. Okay. Not during the time I sponsored him. Here's the thing. Right. This is what I'm saying. This has nothing to do with me as a sponsor.
I'm going to say this on your
because
resume.
this was no, I know because this is exactly what my friend. This was so funny. My buddy Sean's like, "Do you sponsor anybody?" He goes, "Yeah, I have." I said, "Unfortunately, they've all disappeared, relapsed. One I even heard died like a year ago." And he goes, "Jesus, man, try not to sponsor anybody else." I just started dying laughing, man. But the
just
thing
one of those things.
You get into recovery long enough, and this is the thing, man. I never, when people ask me to be their sponsor, I have no problem saying, of course. Here's the thing, though. I cannot. I'm not responsible for that person's ability to manage their recovery because the recovery starts with you as you're figuring it out. Yeah. You can only bring a horse to water, man. And unfortunately, I get these people that I've had one guy get up to step 2 and he did pretty cool. But then unfortunately, he has a lust for the ladies and kept getting in relationships in his first year, and it kept sending him back out. And it's not easy.
That's crazy how much that pulls people back into drug. A heartbreak.
Well, it's because there's people that fuck in recovery, man. Like in their
You're not supposed to?
It's not that you're not supposed to. It's that
it's recommended to
it's
not
recommended
be in a
no relationships
for the first year.
They don't say no sex. I mean, it's like whatever. But here's the thing: everybody in recovery suffers from obsessive compulsive issues. That's the disease. It manifests itself in other areas once you remove drugs and alcohol. So naturally you're going to be like trying to hook up because they're in rehab,
eating hella sweets. I've seen
sweets. It's food, it's gambling, cigarettes. Like you get into whatever else. And it's why a lot of comics are addicts, man. They're because it's an obsessive repetitive kind of thing. And why also, I don't know, why, sex is also intertwined in that too.
Right. It's like a celebratory thing.
It can be, and I'm lucky that like a lot of my relationship issues have always been reluctant. So like as far as like I like women are such, I love women. Unfortunately though, my luck in relationships has always been terrible. So I have a very good bad attitude towards it. So it's like I'm like, I'm not gonna bother, and I don't. You can meet a beautiful woman. As soon as I find out she's in recovery, that's my first concern more than trying to like do it. Same thing with comedy. As soon as I see a woman that I might be attracted to a woman, as soon as I see her do comedy, I'm like, all right, there goes that boner. I'm like, I do not, because I'm not.
Respect for that.
I do, and I love women comics. I think they're hilarious. There's something about a regular person I find more attractive also I
brings balance.
I require a level of privacy in my life. That's what I've learned, and I like having not having everything to be a joke or be put on Front Street for humor's sake.
I don't know if you saw, we just got the light. It's the hour mark.
Oh, right on. Cool.
That's a fast hour.
I'm kind of glad that you brought that up because, it's crazy. I mean, I can say it, right?
Yeah.
We had our voice party meeting, which you weren't there for, but and that was like the last time we saw him before he went to recovery.
Oh, wow.
It was like 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. We're gonna meet up for pizza because we made money off Spotify.
Nice. Congratulations.
And homie showed up, hammered at 2 p.m.
Oh wow. Wait, man, that's sad. But believe me, that for an addict and an alcoholic, that's what we do. It's standard operating procedure.
It was freezing with no jacket. They were like, "What the hell are you doing?"
You saw him hours before that and asked him specifically, "Please don't."
Oh, you asked? Yeah. So it was one of those things.
Yeah. It was the second you had a free second, which I had too much of. Was there's a liquor store right there. I could just have one.
Yeah, that's me. Yeah, same thing, man.
Just one more.
Just one more. I can tie it off.
Tie it off, and then
next thing you know, I'm picking a fight with a comic in the back room for fun, who's like twice my size.
And the thing that was scary.
One is too many. 1,000's
never enough. Never enough.
The thing that was scary is like his band's starting to get, it's starting to pick up, and it's like I've seen this shit so many times where someone that's talented.
Yeah. Here's the thing.
Sad sight.
Recovery recovery is like a spacesuit. Is what my friend told me. It's like you do work a strong level of recovery. You feel like you have this like kind of suit that allows you to go into space, and you're gonna be around the shit. Here's the thing: you ever feel yourself getting in uncomfortable areas? You have the tool. You call people. It's always good to bring a sober buddy. Don't go into anything alone if you know you're going to go into certain territory. If you have business someplace, that's business. As soon as business is done, don't be lingering around too much around the elements and all that. I had one time in my entire going on 9 years in recovery. I've had thanks. I've had one moment where a substance was in my system. It was at the 4-year mark, and I was at the point where I was kind of like curious. I'm like, I wonder what would happen if I had a drug or alcohol in my system. I wonder how I'd react to it. Well, be careful what you wish for, because after a show, we went to a bar next door waiting for a ride, and I love me some sugar-free Red Bulls, right?
Same. So
we all love the energy drinks, and my friend, comic, I'll name her, Brooke Heineken, good friend of mine. We laugh about this to this day. She knew I love sugar-free Red Bulls, so she went and grabbed me a sugar-free Red Bull from the bar. Now, it came back. I had the can with some in it and a glass filled with ice and the Red Bull with a straw in it. And I remember thinking like, it's a lot of Red Bull in the can for the, but whatever. There's a lot of ice in the cup or the glass. So I start drinking it. And it just tastes like, terrible sugar-free Red Bull. And I'm telling some story, and then in the middle of the story, I just remember thinking, like, man, I feel real good. This is a good night, man. This is, good friends, telling, having fun, telling a story, just like that, this nice feeling. Took the next sip, and that was the first time I tasted it. I was like, oh, fuck. there's vodka in this thing. Like, it was because whoever made it poured the Red Bull and poured the vodka on top. So the vodka was still seeping into the bottom, and I'm drinking from the straw that's at the bottom of the glass. So I didn't taste it at first. But once I got to I was like about a third into it, I could taste the vodka. And I was like, I had alcohol in my system. That's why I feel so fucking good right now. I'm like, I knew it had to be bullshit. And I asked,
I wasn't just happy.
I know. I turned to Brooke. I said, did you see them put alcohol in this? And she goes, she got scared shitless. She was like, oh my God, is there alcohol? I'm like, don't worry if there is. I said, I'm pretty sure there is. I said, they made you a vodka Red Bull, and she thought my recovery was over. She thought that she fucked it up and that it was a relapse. I said, no. I said, a relapse would be like if I finished this fucking drink. Knowing that there's alcohol in there. I said, no, I'm not finishing the drink. I just, and she asked the bartender, and she said, yeah, she made a vodka Red Bull. So what I learned, I don't get drinks that I don't see prepared for. I don't get prepared for like a can by itself or whatever. I got to be more diligent in those moments.
And I think that's just a rule for anyone, really. Like,
totally. Yeah, exactly.
100%.
But
especially
you can't even trust. Yeah, you should. I entrusted it to somebody. It wasn't her fault either.
No.
It was nobody's fault. It was totally an accident. And what was funny though is that I talked about it the next morning because I've already heard shares at this point when people accidentally ate cookies that had weed in them and other incidents. And it's a freebie, as some of them say. And we don't react. My first response was, holy shit, I got it in my system, and I don't want it. I was like, I felt better than ever about my recovery in that moment. I'm like, wow, I got the what if, and I realized I don't want it anymore. This is a great fucking feeling. Now, the rest of the weekend, I was torturing Brooke, texting her like, okay, I'm on day 2 of my bender. I got an 8-ball and some hookers in here. I'm gonna need a ride later to the punchline. And I totally she go, fuck you, Dave. And like she kept texting me back. And then Sunday I get home and there is a case of sugar-free Red Bull that she ordered for me as an apology, and I was like, fuck, I can't fuck with her about it anymore.
Damn. Man,
So just keep just keep doing those regular things. Keep your recovery first. Everything else figures itself out, even through the hard times.
Yeah. I'm glad because what you kind of mentioned to me about, you're going to be going to these places and playing shows where they're going to have beer. This is the perfect example that it's possible. Exactly. I've seen this guy at all these shows.
I'm not the only one either. Yeah. Like bring sober friends to your shows if that's a concern.
Yeah. Bring Phil with you.
Hit people up.
Yeah.
100%. Hit people up and talk to your sponsor. See what they say. Get suggestions and all that shit. But fact is, once you start getting all this, I mean, it's great. It's great to hear it. I can kind of see it. I can see that the cool thing about it is you start developing a sense of faith that you never had before. And once you start doing that, you're gonna like, I've already experienced being in recovery long enough to where like human shit came in recovery. These are all the inmates run the asylum. All right, so I've had to deal and navigate with all that, and my recovery meant so much more to me. It wasn't worth like sitting here and judging the whole program because some guy that I looked up to was a fucking dipshit, and I moved on. Like, even my own sponsor, I had a sponsor for 6 years. He was a great sponsor, and then he really disappointed me when I just needed help at one point, and I was like, wow, this is a big deal because this is like a principle matter, and I'm like, I think I need to change sponsors now, not because of judging him. I'm cool with him. I see him, I give him a hug and tell him I love him, but it was really strange to have that fundamental difference, and I navigate that and figured that out, and I got a sponsor today who's like, he's actually one of my friends, he's still my de facto sponsor, like interim. Like, I don't know if I haven't found like somebody whose recovery speaks to me and I love his recovery, so he's good.
Nice. You're one of my favorite people in the comedy scene.
Oh, thank you, man. You are too.
More than Corday.
I always love being better than somebody else.
Exactly.
So,
before we go, well, first of all, I appreciate you coming out.
Thanks for having me. I'm so glad you're here because I was really scared you guys forgot.
We'll have you back, I'm sure.
Yeah.
The other thing is, if you want any of our listeners to contact you or where they can.
I don't want you to contact me. You can follow me.
They will contact you.
Yeah, great episode. I'm at mean_Dave on Instagram. If you look up Mean Dave, you'll find me. I'm on Twitter, which everybody ignores me on. It's at Mean Dave Time. I have a TikTok that I occasionally make a video on. It's Mean Dave 225. But and I have a YouTube channel. If you just look up Mean Dave Comedian, you'll find the channel. But it's YouTube youtube.com/the explainer. And if you have heard me talk today, you know why I'm called the explainer. So
now that I've been trying to book you for 3 months, I want to ask you right now. I'll do a Halloween show.
Yeah, Halloween. Yeah,
so it gives you enough time to not.
Fuck
not
yeah. We're on.
Oh, sorry, I'm booked that day.
We're on. Yeah, we're on for Halloween.
Okay,
sounds good. And I'll have you on at Concord before that.
You don't have to.
No, I'm going to.
Right.
Yes, I do have.
Okay,
to.
all right.
I had no idea. Nobody. Once you see actually the stage now, because they built a new stage room, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Yeah, you and Gaspar. Yes, I kept almost calling you Gustavo. You and Gaspar should come out. And but no, they got a whole new stage room. It looks great. Same Vinny's apathy though. Like I mean, it's actually no. We've been getting regular crowds there now. It makes the show more fun.
Cool.
Yeah, it's been a good time.
Well, anyone else got any?
Here, regular shows. Also, if you're in the South Bay, every second and fourth Monday, go to Lily Mac's restaurant in Sunnyvale. Every first and third Thursday and fifth, if there's a fifth, go to Murphy's Law Bar in Sunnyvale. Every third Sunday, go to Branham Lounge in San Jose. That's tonight. I won't be there tonight, but yeah, go there. And every third Monday, go to Vinny's Bar and Grill in Concord. So you'll see some great fun shows there.
Just want to give props to Mean Dave. We started out like around the same time.
I was before you.
Okay, well, I met you around the same time when we started doing shit.
Yeah.
And then I remember the dopest part. I remember I went away to school and everybody.
Those 2 years matter.
Yeah,
no, I'm sorry.
I remember I went away to school, went away to college in Santa Barbara, and then I came back, and then there was these studio comedy. I'm like, and then Dave got passed at the SF Punchline at that point, and then I remember I saw him go up and he closed out the Sunday showcase at SF Punchline, which is a big thing to first off get passed and to be able to work your way up to closing it out. And I was like, hell fucking yeah, man. And Dave has been working. They spent it. I was like super proud in that moment. I was super happy for you.
Thanks.
He was being.
It's been all downhill from there, man.
He was like, he
says that, but that's bullshit.
No, I know it was funny because he's like, oh yeah, you think I can fucking close out? I was like, nah, dude, I'm all excited.
I just went last. Yeah. No, that doesn't. The fact was, it's like if Mark Smalls were there, he would have been closing.
Nah, fuck that, man. You went last, man. I don't care. I saw it. It was dope as fuck.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah. One of the most, I would say, underrated comics ever.
And I like that.
Because, I see him go at these shows with these big names, and he's on par with the funny, man. Yeah. So I love seeing that. I'm
grateful. That's something my dad taught me. My he was an alcoholic. Bankrupt businessman, went to whatever, and he built himself back up, and he owns his own insurance administrating company. He's a very wealthy man in his own right, and he's a very cool dude. And we didn't get along when I grew up. We get along very well today. And one of the things I think we share in common is we like it, even though it kills us sometimes because we have egos, but we would rather be underestimated than be overrated. We would rather kind of feel like we see things that other people don't see and keep it to ourselves or keep it to our close ones, than be out there and boisterous and showboaty and all that kind of shit. And even though he does like driving nice cars, but and I don't drive at all. I ride the bus. But and so that's just something that we kind of have in common where I think it's like, and it's not like, I'd love to be, I'm 45 now. I don't, I didn't get into, I've gotten into comedy because the guys I loved were like Bobcat Goldthwait and Dennis Miller and Bill Cosby before the rapes. Yeah. But no, comics that were like fucking weird and just offbeat, and there's like other guys that people don't know about today, and I'm friends with them, like Alan Havey. He was a comic I grew up watching, and I'm friends with him. Rich Scheidner, he was one. Rick Overton. Like, there's a lot of great comics that people kind of forgot about, and they still work. And Larry Bubbles Brown's one of my favorite people in the comedy world.
Love that guy.
And he's hilarious. And he's local. He's approachable. You should get him on this show if he'll do a fucking podcast.
What do you do?
I'll talk to him because he rarely does podcasts.
Please do.
But he's such a fucking curmudgeon.
Hilarious.
But he's so funny. And that's the thing, is I got into it for weirdos, not for these. Nothing against them. I'm friends with some of them, but I didn't get into comedy to be cool. I didn't get into comedy to be popular. And it is a popularity contest, but it's
big time.
Yeah, I like being a fucking weirdo, man. I like,
All right.
Yeah.
That's
like being a freak.
That sums up the whole conversation in this episode. So
Definitely.
again, thank you for coming, bro.
Thank you so
Thanks
much
for having me, guys.
That's
Thank you for the meatloaf.
And we're out.
Fuck, I was literally about